Hello, welcome to episode 90 of the Epic Film Challenge to 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, 1977's Eraserhead, directed by David Lynch, who went on to do films like The Elephant Man, Dune, and the TV series Twin Peaks. Very much an auteur. I think David Lynch, he's one of those directors who has a specific style. Not that all of his films feel the same, but he has that style where he does things in his own kind of David Lynchian way, and I think a lot of people would agree that there is a David Lynchian way to do things that perhaps only David Lynch could pull off. A very weird, very strange, very bizarre. And Eraserhead, his first feature film, really kicked off his career in terms of feature films in a very interesting fashion. I think I could talk about this film for half an hour. I think I could also sum up my thoughts on this film in half a minute. Hopefully we'll meet somewhere in the middle there and find a happy medium, but it's a film I'd known of for years. I know Ryan Chatway's a big fan of it. And we return to a surrealist film, an abstract film, in the Epic Film Challenge too. I've already talked about films like Jeanne, Age of Gold, Heaven and Earth Magic. And this, finally, perhaps, seems to be a surrealist film where not a lot makes much sense, but I was able to enjoy it a lot more. And I think the reason is fairly simple. One, it looks amazing, the way that it's shot, the way that it's lit, black and white, you know, I'm a sucker for black and white when it's lit well. But also it has somewhat of a plot. It's threadbare, but it's there nonetheless. And the plot follows a man called Henry, and he lives in this very strange industrial landscape in a very strange small room and has a very strange life. And his girlfriend gave birth to a child prematurely. He finds this out after the fact, and she's distraught about this because it doesn't resemble anything close to a human. It is some weird creature that has come out of her, and she can't bear it. She cannot bear it, so she leaves this thing with the main character Henry, and he has to kind of take care of it, look after it, and you know, that's the film, and it's a trip. It is a trip. I would imagine that taking any number of drugs that you can think of that kind of alter your frame of mind would certainly be a crazy film to watch while under the influence of that. Hell, even being drunk while watching this film, I think, would be probably an out-of-body experience. And I can't even remember the last time I was drunk, but I've suddenly thought to myself that would probably be quite an interesting night to have a few and then watch this film. Very, very deep film. You know, it feels like there's so much going on, even though it is, dare I say, plodding at times. I found myself kind of almost nodding off a bit. Very slow paced, very quiet in terms of the action on screen at times, but there's always this rumbling sound of this industrial estate, of these machines, of the pipes, the radiators, they're rumbling, they're just this ambience is always there of this machinery and just the things that inhabit the screen, you know, from random objects to the main character himself. They all give off this weird vibe, and it's an uncomfortable vibe, and it takes me back to the silent era with The Doctor of Caligari, which is completely different to this film, but it gives me the same kind of uncomfortable feeling. There's a claustrophobia to the film. Most of it, I feel like, takes place in the main character's room, and you know, there's so many different things going on. You know, there's this. I mean, I'm not even going to go into it. I'm not even going to give you the fine details, because if you haven't seen this film, I recommend that you check it out. It's definitely not for everyone, and I don't even think it's for me necessarily. I do think I'd watch it again. I do think that it might reward me more in repeat viewings, and it conjured up images that will stay in my head forever, no doubt. Particularly this child, this thing, which I thought was such an incredible achievement in special effects. And from what I understand, David Lynch was almost a one-man show here, you know, doing the producing, the writing, the directing, and the special effects. I'm not sure how much entirely he was behind this thing, but I mean, it was incredible, because there's a scene when you first see it. It's lying there on the table, its body is all bandaged up, and you just see the long head sticking out of the end. It almost looks like E.T. in a way. And the eyes look so realistic, and the mouth, because the first time you see it, Henry's girlfriend is trying to feed the thing, and it won't take it, and it's spitting out and stuff, and the tongue comes out of the mouth. And I tell you what, it looked like this thing was breathing. It looked like this thing had a working mouth. And for a split second I actually thought maybe they got an actor inside that for the mouth. Which, if you look at the size of the head and everything, it's an impossibility. Unless you found someone who was severely deformed. But that's how good it was, that for a split second it tricked me into thinking it might actually have been, you know, partly real. And there's been some controversy or discussion. There's been a lot of rampant discussion about this thing in the film, because it's never been revealed how it was done or anything like that. And David Lynch is very secretive about it and has joked that maybe we just found it, you know. Apparently the theory is that it's an embalmed calf's fetus or something like that. I don't know. It's very... And that's the word that comes to mind when I think of Eraserhead. It's very, you know, whatever Eraserhead is, it's very much of it, you know. It goes all in to what it is and to what it's about. Well, not even what it's about. Again, you can throw it all up in the air. David Lynch has apparently never really spoken on record about what this film is about. People think that it's about his own fears of fatherhood, and that he had a daughter who had clubbed feet and deformities, things like that. And I do find the aspect of the film where, what if in real life you were to conceive a child and it was to come out wrong, you know, and the fear behind that, and also the disgust behind that. I think it taps into something very primal when it comes to the fear of parenthood, perhaps. But it's very abstract. There's many scenes where it just doesn't make much sense. I mean, it's about 11 minutes before there's any dialogue in the film. Very sparse dialogue throughout as well. And the actor who played the main character has said that he never knew what the film was about, nor did he ever care. And as far as he's concerned, people are looking too deep into it, and it's just a movie. And I kind of edge on that side of the fence when it comes to this film, at least, in terms of what does it mean, you know. There's certainly things that felt like they were just there, just to be weird, which I think is fine. It's certainly not my favorite film in the world. It's certainly not even one I would call amazing. But I think it was kind of great. It smacked you in the face with all of the things that David Lynch wanted to present to you. It blows my mind that this was made over 5 years. They had to rebuild sets, and that the main actor had to keep that frizzy hair and all that kind of stuff. The production itself seems crazy. And this was not exactly a hit when it came out, but a lot of important people saw this film and really liked it. Stanley Kubrick said it was one of his favourite films, and he showed it to the cast of The Shining to get them into the mood of what he wanted to do with that film. George Lucas, I should say, wanted David Lynch to direct Return of the Jedi because of this. And Mel Brooks saw this and said to David Lynch, do you want to direct The Elephant Man? And he did go and do that. So a lot of big names saw this and really loved it. And I can see why, but it's not one I'm going to be heaping praise onto. I'll just say it like that. It did drag, but I found what it did to be very unique and captivating in kind of a horrifying way. And there's just some images that were presented that just, you know, are very strange and abstract. There's a scene where he makes love to this woman, and it cuts to them on the bed, and they're inside the bed, and they're kissing, and there's water inside the bed. Like, it's crazy. It's very strange, and there's just some real holy shit moments. And those final 10 minutes of the film were just like captivating. Like, what? This is so fucked up. Where is it going to go over the next 2 minutes? Like, you know, so it really has you on the edge of your seat by the time we get to the end of the film about what the hell is going to happen, how the film is going to wrap up, and whether or not we're going to get some kind of explanation for all this. Spoilers, you don't. And I think that's right, and I think that this is a film you should see before you die. I'm not saying you're going to like it, I'm not saying you're going to appreciate it, but I think it's one that you should see. For nothing else than it being a conversation starter. Have you seen that film, Eraserhead? Fucked up, right? Yeah, I know. So, it's one of those films that is so weird that I think that it has the merit to be one of those films you just have to see. Not because you say that you have to see this film because it's one of the best films I've ever seen, but you have to see this film because you have to see this film. You know, you have to experience it for yourself and see what you make of it. And as I said, maybe have a couple of beers with your friends while you're watching it, and it might turn out to be quite an illuminating experience. Anyway, that's it for Eraserhead. I could go further into it, but I think it's best left at that. I think the highlight was this creature thing. I would have liked to have seen more of that, but at the same time, it was so impressive and used throughout the film. I think it probably, maybe if you show too much of it, it would lose its impact of being so impressive as a special effect. Because I thought that the special effects in this film, even just focused purely on this alien creature was top notch, top of the line, absolutely incredible, so believable, and you feel bad for the thing. You really feel bad for the thing, and so, you know, it did move my emotions in some way, which is something that films like this don't usually do. And if you took that element out of it, if you took that alien creature out of this film and it was just another creature that didn't have a relation to the main character, I don't think I would have really had any feeling towards this film other than, you know, just bewilderment. But making it this character's, his son, his daughter, his offspring, really made me feel for it and felt empathetic towards this thing. And so, you know, yeah, it's a very, very weird film that feels like an individual in a sea of movies that feel grouped together. And I do think it's a film you should see before you die.